Fine. The camera's shooting over there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to make sure it hits the. There we go. I don't know. I don't know if this is even show. Typically,
did he know his name?
typically no one checks in, but sometimes Matt Shea's uncle does.
Did he know his name?
He knew his name, and obviously his name was right, like what he said. If they got this stuff.
Yeah.
If it was one of those situations where, like, he went by another name and didn't know, like, his legal name, that would make it hard. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff they do over there, and it's great. I think it's awesome. All right.
I think it's so marvelous that they're helping those people because, and there's a lot of them that want to work. They don't want to be on the street. But they've raised the rent so atrociously high, they can't even, well, it's minimum wage. Can't get them into an apartment.
Right. Yeah.
They've gotten in on Section 8.
Yeah, that's almost certainly, and having roommates or something. But it's, once you're on the street, the chance of clawing yourself back into society is almost impossible without a lot of help. And so
So they do have a caseworker over there then?
free. Yeah. Well, a program manager and 2 other staffers, and all of them are caseworkers, like, legally. And so it's a good system. Yeah. Do we have any prayer requests today, or things that we want to bring to God this morning? To start at this time.
I don't have any today.
One of our friends is going through a rough patch.
Okay. Would they not want their name being said?
Possibly, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
I think it's more than just one of our friends. I feel like a lot of our
all of our friends.
It sounds, yeah, from what you've been saying, it sounds like the whole group is just going through it right now, which tracks. Like, it feels like, well, I mean, start of a new year is always tough, and then it's felt to me like everything we've been through in the past 2 years is like catching up to me, and I don't think I'm alone in that. Like, we've just been reacting to the world for so long.
Me too, because before the pandemic hit, I was out and about every day of the week.
Really?
Yes.
How often are you now? Just Wednesdays?
No, Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Saturdays, and then and church on Sunday. The other 3 days, I have nothing to do except the first, second, and fourth Thursday. I have Eagles
Okay.
in the evening. And they're supposed to on Sunday have Bunko, but they didn't have it last month.
Garbage.
Oh, Bunko's fun.
It's no, it's super fun. I'm saying it's garbage, so they canceled it.
What if you go to Bunko with my family?
Huh?
All my aunts go to Bunko on Sundays. I wonder if it's part of that group.
If it's the same group, where is it?
At the Eagles.
Yeah, my guys no idea where it is.
That would be interesting. I bet it is. I mean, how many Bunko on Sundays groups are there?
I have no idea, but
Yeah.
it is a fun thing.
Bunko's really fun. I didn't expect it to be as fun as it was until we played it here, and man, the screaming and trash talk is so much fun.
Come on. Yeah.
Oh man,
My mom's
It's-
Bunko group, you weren't allowed to talk.
really?
Oh, no, that's no fun.
I wouldn't belong in that group.
Me either. I did upstairs, I was up.
No, you can't. Like, I absolutely refuse to play in a
No.
Bunko game where you can't talk. that's not my scene.
Me either. I
All right.
gotta be boisterous.
Let's open in a word of prayer. God, we thank you for helping us to be here and allowing us this time and space to get into your word. God, we pray that you guide this conversation, that you help us all learn something more about who you are and what it means to live for you here on this earth. We pray for Johnny and Matt's friend and really all of the college group as they're going through it right now. Be with them, strengthen them, give them peace right now. Lord, we thank you all. We thank you for this time, and we thank you for this space. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay, we're going to be in the book of Daniel, chapter 2. We're doing 6 weeks. We're going through 6 chapters of Daniel. And I don't know if we're going to do 1 through 6 yet, or if we're going to do the second part of 2, because chapter 2 is ridiculously long. So probably today we're only going to do half.
Yeah, it's 49
It's
verses.
so long.
And it was only 29 verses. I would say that we do, let's see.
Yeah. I got plans. I got plans. Do you have any things that keep you up at night? Or keep you like concerned constantly? Or keep you anxious?
Yeah.
You don't have anything? You've just got
Just figured it
complete
out.
peace, huh?
Figured it out.
Wow. What kinds of things keep us up at night?
No, I just go to bed and go to sleep.
Jeez. I have not done that
I have nights
in
that
20 years.
my mind won't shut down,
Yeah.
but
Mm.
I haven't had any of those in quite some time.
Cracks in our foundation, they're bothering me.
In the house foundation?
Yeah.
Oh, no. Yeah.
We're getting it taken care of.
Yeah.
I don't have stuff like keeps me up at night because I get so little sleep
Mhm.
as it is, so I just fall asleep when I do. But from the moment I wake up to the moment I'm going to bed, I'm always worrying about something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I want to tell you a little story. Years ago, my mother and dad been married a while, and this was during the Depression, and they were both worried about bills. Daddy got up one morning, he says, let's stop worrying about the bills. It isn't doing any good, and it isn't doing us any good. So they quit worrying about the bills, and things began to look up.
But they just stopped.
Just stopped worrying about the bills.
Oh well.
Have you ever seen that? I think it was the Bob Newhart show. That there's a really famous clip from it where someone goes into his office. He's a therapist, and the guy's like unloading all this stuff. He's like, "Stop it! Just stop it!" He just keeps shouting, "Stop it!" Hey, how are you, Matt?
Good.
Do you have anything that keeps you up at night or keeps you worried generally? Coffee. I'm literally throwing down some coffee right now. This is not, usually I stop at 2, unless I'm doing, leading something at night, and then I just keep throwing it back and getting more and more anxious. Well, today we're going to be looking at Daniel 2, and so the background here, this is going to be not a realistic map at all. This is as close as I can do. So we've got water here, and then there's this little tiny bean, and it's split in half, and this is Israel, and this is Judah. And they're a little tiny speck in the middle of a whole ton of land around them. So up here, you have this giant country called Assyria. And Assyria has a capital called Nineveh. You might have heard of Nineveh. Jonah was told to go to Nineveh, and he
Yes.
said no, and he didn't go, and he ran away. That's because Assyria is kind of a big, giant bully, and they threatened to destroy Israel a lot. They were like an enemy, but like a big, frighteningly scary one. A little bit below Assyria, again, not an accurate map, you have Babylon. And Babylon, not quite as big, but they did conquer Assyria later. Babylon, another big, scary, giant bully country. Underneath, you have Persia. And over here, you have Egypt. And all of these countries are big and giant. And Israel and Judah, just real tiny. And so almost the entirety of the Old Testament is set here. And the New Testament. Like all the Gospels just are here.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's really, really, really tiny. And it's hard to overstate just how small these countries were in the middle of just big, giant empires. And so in 722, Assyria comes in and they destroy Israel. His dad is gone. They kill everyone they can and they take the rest away as slaves. And then in 587, Babylon comes in and destroys Judah. Judah's where Jerusalem is. They destroy the temple, they destroy everything, and they take a lot of people back with them into Babylon. Again, in chains as slaves. And so that's like the background of a lot of the Old Testament, but it's also a lot of the background of what we have going on here. Because Daniel, the first 6 chapters of Daniel, are set in Babylon by the people who were dragged away. And you got to imagine, as background here, people living here for their whole lives, and their parents living here, and those parents living there, and their homes set on fire, and people around them killed, and the ones who are still alive getting dragged away.
It's like what Russia is doing too.
It's exactly like that, yeah. Except like to an even smaller country and an even bigger empire. And then not only is all this happening, like they're fighting each other too. Babylon killed Assyria, and then Persia and Egypt together killed Babylon. It was a whole mess. That's a good looking map now. So you have every one of these chapters set in Babylon, starring people who were ripped away from their homes. And so when we read about Nebuchadnezzar, King Nebuchadnezzar, these are Daniel and his friends are from Judah. They're working for the king because the king thinks they're really smart. And you have to imagine that there's some mixed feelings there, right? Like this isn't an ideal situation for them. So all that's our background to this chapter, or this section of Daniel chapter 2. So, Joanne, do you mind reading up through, I don't know, verse 6
Okay.
or so?
One night during the 2nd year of his reign, Nebuchadnezzar had such disturbing dreams that he couldn't sleep. He called in his magicians, enchanters, sorcerers, and astrologers, and he demanded that they tell him what he had dreamed. As they stood before the king, he said, "I have had a dream that deeply troubles me, and I must know what it means." Then the astrologers answered the king in Aramaic, "Long live the king, tell us the dream, and we will tell you what it means." But the king said to the astrologers, "I am serious about this. If you don't tell me what my dream was and what it means, You will be torn limb from limb, and your houses will be turned into heaps of rubble. But if you tell me what I dreamed and what the dream means, I will give you many wonderful gifts and honors. Just tell me the dream and what it means.
All right.
I like that too.
Yeah. If you do not tell me what my dream is, I will have you cut into pieces and your houses turned into piles of rubble.
He repeats that same threat down lower, the same exact words.
Does he?
Yeah.
It,
That's a standard thing.
It seems weird, right? Like this guy seems a little off his rocker. Not like a great dude. And he probably was. Like this is not normal people behavior. You do have to remember that he takes care of one country
Yeah.
in the middle of 3 other giant ones. You live in a situation that's that tenuous, that frightening, that scary all the time. You could see how it would make you a little crazy. Like you're always constantly living in fear. I'm not trying to like defend Nebuchadnezzar. I'm just saying like why this could happen. Why he could be a little nuts. So let's keep going. Liz, do you want to start at verse 7?
They answered again and said, let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will through the interpretation of it. The king answered and said, I know of certainty that ye would gain the time, because ye see the thing is gone from me. But if ye will not make known unto me the dream, there is but one degree of you, for ye have prepared lying and concept words to speak, therefore before me till the time he charged, therefore tell me the dream, and I shall know that ye can show me the interpretation, therefore.
Great. So he's saying what? Like before he said, I'm having a dream, interpret it. How is it going now?
Well, he really hasn't said what he dreamed.
Right? Yeah. He's changing the rules.
How can they interpret it if he has not told them what he dreamed?
Right? Yeah, he's kind of changed the rules. He said, interpret the dream for me, or I'll have you torn limb from limb. And now he's saying, I want you to tell me what the dream is, and then I'll know that you're good enough to interpret the dream. So tell me what I dreamed, and then interpret that dream for me. And he's already threatened to, cut all their limbs off. So this isn't a great situation if you're like a magician in Babylon right now. You're probably thinking this is your last day on Earth. Matt, do you want to read from 10 to 13?
Yep.
Which Matt? I forgot there's 2 Matts. Shit.
The astrologers answered the king, there is no one on earth who can do what the king asks. No king, however great and mighty, has ever asked such a king of any method or magician or enchanter or astrologer. What the king asks is too difficult. No one can reveal it to the king except the gods, and they do not live among humans. Okay, keep going.
Keep going, 2 more verses.
This made the king so angry and furious that he ordered the execution of all the wise men of Babylon, so that the decree was issued to put the wise men to death, and men were sent to look for Daniel and his friends to put them to death.
All right, so we've got a bunch of astrologers, we've got a bunch of wise men. Back in the day, they're like every nation had their people who were who looked at the stars and like said what would be, and Nebuchadnezzar has them, and they all say it's not possible for us to tell you something that you won't tell us. To tell us something about what you dreamed. And so Nebuchadnezzar says, fine, I'm going to kill all of you. And they go looking for Daniel. What do you do if you're Daniel and his friends? What do you do if you're Daniel?
Ask him what the dream was.
Yeah.
What did you dream? Maybe I can decipher it.
How do you think Nebuchadnezzar would respond if you did that?
I don't know.
Turn your house into a heap of rubble.
He seems crazy.
Yeah.
He seems crazy. You said run. How likely? What do you think your odds are
0.
of like finding a hole somewhere and just hiding out,
Yeah, not
getting some grub and like trying to hide out underground or something? You might get a ways. There's no cameras at the time. People don't have smartphones or anything. Like you maybe could hide for a while, but if a king goes nuts,
The devil of it is everywhere they go, there's these people.
that's true. That's true. Where are they gonna go? Are they gonna go back home? There's nothing there.
Well, unless they could a boat, went out on the water and went that direction.
That could work. You could float over to Italy or something. Like if you had a good enough boat, you could take off. Huh.
I don't know if I'm picturing this right, but in 14, Arioch or whatever,
Mhm.
I'm picturing him coming there with a sword ready to kill him, and yet they have a talk.
Yeah.
And Daniel, I think Arioch kind of had some respect for Daniel or something, because something caused him to pause and not kill him long enough for Daniel to talk to him.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? And
What kind of
he seemed to get along with everybody.
yeah? Do you think he was like a smooth talker, or do you think he was just kind enough that people?
I think he was wise, and people recognized that he was wise.
Yeah, that's interesting. It is strange that. No, that's good. That's good. Yeah,
Yes, questions.
let's keep going to 19 because you're asking good questions here. Other Matt, do you want to start reading from 14
Sure.
to like 19?
Then Daniel replied with prudence and discretion to Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, who had gone out to kill the wise men of Babylon. He declared to Arioch, the king's captain, "Why is the decree of the king so urgent?" Then Arioch made the matter known to Daniel. And Daniel went in and requested the king to appoint him a time that he might show the interpretation to the king. Then Daniel went to his house and made the matter known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companion, and told them to seek mercy from the God of heaven concerning this mystery, so that Daniel and his companions might not be destroyed with the rest of the wise men of Babylon. Then the mystery was revealed to Daniel in a vision of the night, and then Daniel blessed the God of heaven.
All right. So, what do we think about Daniel here? First of all, what did he do? What was his response here?
So he asked questions, that's what I noticed.
Yeah, yes, questions. What, these other guys didn't even ask questions.
From
That's
my
true.
from my understanding of back when they were all slaves, they were still like religious and they're still praising God, and like the Babylonians saw that and were like saw that they were still like had a divine influence over them. So like when Arioch went and was supposed to go kill Daniel, was like, hey, maybe you can do something to save countless people's lives.
That's really
So,
good.
like, saw that Daniel was seen, or he didn't put Daniel on like a pedestal, but like was seen as like someone who could help in mysterious ways that other people could not.
That's really
That's
good.
why Daniel was given special privilege.
Do you have anyone in your life who's like that? Who, if you need to make a big decision, like there's a person I'm gonna run this by first because that person is like an especially wise one. Do any of you have like that person that you're always gonna check in with to make sure the choices you're making are good ones?
I do, but I also like making my own choices.
Yeah.
Fail
No,
to succeed, so,
Is
but yeah.
Do you-
Jared Fedorian.
it?
Thanks.
Yeah, he is good for that. Do you sometimes like go the opposite way of what he says just
Oh,
to
yeah.
spite him?
Not to spite him, but to spite being told what to do.
Right, that makes sense. And it becomes weird mind games because I'm sure he knows that you do that.
Oh, yeah.
And so does he tell you the opposite thing then? Yeah. Yeah, these are really smart people. Last week we looked at Daniel 1 and they, Daniel and his friends, we have Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. They're also called Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. I wish they would have just used those names because that's what we know, but they didn't. And they were told to eat a certain kind of meat that we assumed was like given to idols, and they said, no, we're not going to do that, and it ended up being good for them, and the king saw them as being especially wise. So I could see Arioch coming in with the sword and being about to cut their heads off, and Daniel opening his mouth, and he stops for a second. Says, let me hear this guy out. This is a smart dude. This is a wise dude. He's gotten through something big. Let's see if he's got something now. What does Daniel say?
Are you talking about why is the king issued such a harsh decree?
I mean, yeah, he does say that. And then he says, give us time, right? Like, can you give us a little bit to think about it? And I think if I was Nebuchadnezzar, like doesn't that sound like, hey, give us time, and while you're giving us time, we're gonna, we're gonna take off. But it's weird, right? I think it's weird. Do you think this sounds like? Because I've heard a lot of people talking about how this sounds like Daniel acting in bold faith. Does this sound like faith to you?
Yeah.
I think he's using a lot of common sense. I think he's trying to see where the other side is at and trying to work with that
Mm-hmm.
rather than demanding their own way or acting his. He acted with discretion is one of the words I heard.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he did. Why do you think it?
Because he could have been like, be like, I can't figure this out. Just kill me now.
He could have
He
done
could
that.
have, but then he's like, because I feel like dying at the sword, although painful, I feel like in the back of his mind, he's like, or I could go to the king, try and figure this out, and then if I get it wrong, suffer a worse death, or
Yeah.
get it right and not die at all.
Oh,
That is true. That is true. Maybe I'll get lucky. Have you ever tried to trying to guess at a dream? Dreams are weird. Like there's no way. There's no way. You could try and be as generic as possible, but like when you read about the dream, there would be no way. You couldn't possibly get it. No, that's interesting. Also, he doesn't just say that he wants a few days or whatever. He goes to God in that time. It says he urged them to plead for mercy from the God of heaven so that he and his friends might not be executed. When you're up against a really difficult situation in your life, is going to God usually the first thing you do?
No, I shut down.
Just shut down? How long does it take you to realize maybe I should take this to God?
Depends. There are days or moments where it is one of my initial responses. Like, I should pray about this. I should go to God about this. Most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's deep into super depressed. Maybe I should have talked to God. So, sometimes it's after the moment. I'm like, oh man, I wonder if I prayed.
Yeah. Matt, Shay, you've been through a lot in your life. Anytime you've done something like when you decided to go to college, or when you decided to face that slide that almost killed you again, different slide. Do you always go to God first, or is it kind of hit or miss?
I got a story about that.
Yeah.
So, when I first started going with the process of going to college, applying to go to college, I was under a lot of stress. And then I remember getting this really bad headache. And the point, it was a sickening headache. It was a Sunday, and I almost never missed church. And I had to turn around because I got sick on the bus and had to turn around. And I went home to have a really bad headache. And the words, the song, oh, let needless pain me often forfeit. Oh, let needless pain me often bear. All because we do not take it to the Lord in prayer.
Mm, yeah.
That was I didn't take it to God. I mean, I did, but that's been one of my focal points. After that, whenever I had a tough decision, and I remember that time.
Yeah. How did that change the headache and the stress?
It went away.
It went away? Like right away?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have any of you had an experience like that where like your stress went away when you went to God about something heavy? I'm seeing some nods and a head shake. I think I relate more to the head shake, but I've had moments where God has alleviated my stress.
I think when it's reversed, when it gets too much to bear, there's no other choice. You know, and
Yeah, that's true. That line you said, "All my griefs and sins to bear," like they do stack up, don't they?
yeah.
It it can become so much that we don't really, we can't do anything else. I wonder, Daniel and his friends, I wonder if having their homeland destroyed, getting taken over to Babylon, being in chains, being on the chopping block, and then having the king put them in basically his royal court. They've been through a lot of near-death experiences, and I wonder if maybe the reason they keep going to God first is because once everything stacks up so much, you don't really have another choice. Grandma Liz, you ever had a situation where it was so stressful or so big, and you took it to God?
The only time that I can remember is when I lost my second child.
Mm.
And I was in love with him, you might say. It's just a very hard time for me.
Yeah. How did God get you through that?
I never blamed him.
Well.
Because he knew what he was doing. I didn't.
Mm.
Later on, when I discovered that he had an enlarged heart, I had a cousin that was the same way, and he lived to adulthood, but all the years that his brother and sister were out playing, exerting themselves,
Mm-hmm.
he had to sit on the porch with a book.
Oh, gosh.
I would not put any child, through that.
Right. I can't imagine spending your whole childhood watching everyone else have fun.
Yeah.
That sounds like a nightmare. Mm.
No child do that.
Yeah. I don't think I can hold my kids back.
That might have been
especially the little one. Dude, no, he would. I don't think I could.
Is he hyperactive?
I think so. I wouldn't be surprised if
Have you talked to doctors about it?
we talked to him about ADHD, and they haven't tested him, but our doctor, or his doctor, was saying, I can't diagnose him, but he has it.
Well, no, I'm talking about the hyperactivity.
Hyperactivity, it's possible. He did.
And that can be, my daughter Rose,
Mm-hmm.
she was in kindergarten. And she'd just take off down the hall, dancing and waving her arms. So they came and talked to us, and we didn't believe it. They said that she was slow and that she was hyperactive. So later on, we did find out that she was.
Mm.
And then when she was 8 years old, they told me she was borderline epileptic. But, and then when it started, I took her back up there and they put her through that. Then that stuff that they put on her, put those things on their heads, she had a very sensitive head. And I had a heck of a time getting that all out of her hair.
Gosh, yeah.
Oh, but to show you how bad it was, I followed her around and around in circles to put a ponytail in.
Mm.
She had a very sensitive head.
Wow.
Still does.
That sounds awful. That sounds awful trying to take care of a kid that has a sensitive head.
Oh, and I just had a hard time raising her.
Yeah.
I don't know, Zach might be active, but we all love him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we love him.
He's a lovable kid.
Yeah.
So,
He's very lovable and has a very pleasing personality.
Pleasing is an interesting word for it. Johnny, do you mind reading, verse 20 through 23? Do you have it up?
Yeah.
Cool.
It said, "Praise be to the name of the God forever and ever. Wisdom and power are his. He changes time and seasons. He deposes kings and raises up others. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning. He reveals deep and hidden things. He knows what lies in darkness, and light dwells with him. I thank and praise you, God of my ancestors. You have given me wisdom and power. You have made known to me what we ask of you. You have made known the dreams to us, sorry. You have made known to us the dream of the king."
What was he reading?
That was verse 20 through 23. It's like the poem section, kind of. So he knows, or at least he thinks he knows, the dream. God told him what the dream was. And what was his response to that?
Praising God.
Praising God. Yeah. Yeah. So before I asked, is going to God the first thing you do when something bad happens? Do you praise God when good things happen? Is that like your instinct, or is it just, is it like maybe a thing that you remember later? Oh, yeah, thanks, God.
I think it usually happens later. It's not gonna be like, or it's not like when I pray for something and like it gets answered, I don't like recognize it right away.
Mhm.
But like later, when I'm listening to like worship music or here on Sunday, I'll like reflect back and be like, oh, it was answered.
Yeah.
And I worship then.
Yeah. One of my favorite things I heard, and this is not mine. This is Bud Suka. He gets all the credit for this. But he started doing this thing. He'd pull out a journal, and he has this journal, and he writes prayers and answers. And he does this. And every time he has a prayer, he writes it down, and they collect. And every time a prayer gets answered, he writes down how it was answered. And he said, and all the times he's done that, every prayer he's ever put down has been answered in some way or another.
Me and my daughter Rose would have many, because she has a little box, and if you ask her to pray for somebody, until they tell her that prayer has been answered, she continues to pray it. And she has them in this little box, and she takes them out every morning and prays for everybody.
Wow. Do people ever tell her that the prayer's been answered?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. Because
I've been praying for people for the last 10 years.
That's what I was thinking. Like, a lot of times, God does something and it's great, and then you don't necessarily go back and tell people. I'm glad that they do, so that she can celebrate with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's terrific.
She lives in class tonight.
Okay. That's a great ministry. That's really
She used
cool
to go to the Wesleyan Church.
Okay.
You know where those apartments that were built across from the Wesleyan Church?
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
That's where she used to live.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good ministry. Looking back on this prayer, you all have it in front of you. Is there a line in the prayer that that sticks out to you, or is there something that you're that's touching you in some way?
It's the first one, the second line. He changes times and seasons. He deepens kings. He withholds kings and rises up others. Like we just at the pandemic, there's that little season, it's like that he brought in, and others have things happen, and normally things that God could do. And I think of the recent passing of Queen Elizabeth. He in one king, one, and then
Monarch.
one monarchy, and then another.
Yeah,
Yeah, she was only 2 years older than me.
really?
Oh, yes, I watched her coronation on the TV when her father died and she took the throne.
Yeah, she was pretty young, right?
I think she only had Charles at that time.
Okay. Oh, gosh.
She was a year older than Jay. When she became queen.
Really? See, that's just crazy to me.
We watched her run in the country.
Yeah, right?
And her sister Margaret.
I can't even, like, I was just a
Grew up
ball of
here.
anxiety at that age. I wouldn't, even now, if they put me in charge of something that big, I'd be a mess. It seems gutsy to me for him to say the line and write it down. He sets up kings and deposes them. Nebuchadnezzar is crazy. Like, to even say something like, eventually this king will be taken down. Like, he already threatened to kill you, man. Like, what are you doing writing that down? Are there any other lines that ring true to you or speak to you today?
I guess not like the last one, the verse 23, like the middle part, it's you have given me wisdom and power, and you have made known to me or what we asked of you.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's recently all my prayers have been about like where I'm supposed to go in life, or not like where I'm supposed to go in life, but like just answers to different questions I have about my life and different choices I should make or have made.
Yeah.
I feel like that hearing someone or just hearing about like God answering other people's prayers just gives me hope.
Yeah. That's great. Have you found any answers in that time?
I feel like, yeah, so I feel like, without getting too much into it, yeah, but like, it's like I'll wake up in the morning and I'll be like, okay, and I'll be feeling down, and then like the same question every day, or not like the same question, but it's just questions about the same stuff in life, and then I'll pray about it, and like I'll listen to worship music at work, or like I'll listen to a sermon, and then I feel like God answers it, and then for that day I'm like, I'm good. Next morning I'm like, God, I need more answers, I need more answers.
That's exactly right. That is how it works a lot of the time. I think Joanne would probably tell you this. I think Liz would probably tell you this. Liz seems to have her life together pretty well. Better than we do, maybe. Joanne would probably tell you, questioning where your life is going to go is a pretty lifelong process, right? Like, I feel like we're all just stumbling through life trying to.
That's what I found.
Yeah.
It's like we're listening to sermons about faith and sermons about like trusting God and stuff like that. It's like I've always like the main thing is like we don't know. God's just like pulling us along. We just have to trust that it's gonna end up somewhere good.
Yeah.
I read a little ahead, and it seems like
Joanne.
I know,
I can't.
but Daniel
Yeah.
seemed to go in and out of the spotlight. Like, people didn't know who he was some of the time.
Uh-huh.
Some of the time that he was the head of, the
Yeah.
third in the king, and he went back and forth from that, and he was still doing what God wanted him to do.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't always, but he was always discerning. He was, that was his habit, to be wise and discerning, and his reputation spoke for him.
Yeah.
But I just like the fact that he didn't have to be on a stage or doing something grand all the time.
In retrospect, it reminds me a lot of Joseph.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking when you were talking. How's that?
It reminds me a lot of Joseph, because Joseph saved Egypt
The whole freaking country.
because he was able to tell the king what his dream meant and how to prevent it.
It's remarkably similar to the story.
I
Yeah,
can't interpret dreams, but I can be faithful, I guess.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and if you think about Joseph or Daniel in this case, what I find amazing about them is that they're faithful whether they're, second in line in charge of a freaking country or in prison on death row. Joseph was both and everywhere in between throughout that story. And yet
Yes.
he never lost his faithfulness. His brothers threw him in a pit and left him for dead. And he never lost his faithfulness in that time.
Yes.
And we, as we go through life, we might have moments where we're kind of a big shot. Like it can happen where you speak in front of a group of people every Monday, and yet you also have days where you're just like feeling lower than low and not really wanting to be around much of anyone. And yet in both situations, we can be faithful.
Yes.
I'd argue it's way harder to be faithful if you've got a lot of clout and respect, because people are watching you at that point. It's frightening.
I don't like to be in the spotlight.
You don't? You'd be good in the spotlight. You're fun. You got stories for days. Come on. You'd be great. Yeah. It's frightening to be in the spotlight, but Daniel found a way to keep faithful in all that time.
To work through it.
Yeah. So as we start to wrap this time up, we're not going to get this week into what the dream was. You can read it if you want. It's a whole thing. But we're just this is just a teaser, kind of.
The words of it, tell us the dream.
Yeah. Tell us the dream. No, not this week. What are you, having read these first 23 verses, what are you walking away from here with? What is God telling you today here?
I don't have to worry about the government.
Mm.
I just have to do what I'm supposed to do.
It's interesting, yeah. Yeah, that is kind of what the point was, right? A government, crazy government in this case. But
Yeah.
It's,
Well, I walk with people, and we usually get onto those topics, and people are really worried about things either way, and so
yeah,
I can look at that and then say, I'm not going to worry about it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to worry about it.
Still
It's not going to.
They're still worried about this COVID.
Yeah.
But to show you how good those shots are, my son-in-law got it because he only got the first shot.
oh, really? Just one?
I don't know if he got the second one or not, but I had all four.
If you're going to get one, what?
But,
It's weird.
he was in the house for the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
and he came upstairs, and so he was, but I didn't take it. Nobody else got it, because
You didn't get COVID when he was in the house with it? Jeez. It hit all of us, once it got in our house, there was no...
well, I had all four shots.
I'm waiting until my fourth shot, and then I'm taking the mask off. But the singing at church, that's the part that I'm concerned about. In other environments, I'm not so concerned.
Yeah. We went to family camp last year when not everyone was vaccinated, not everyone could be. This was when kids couldn't be. And there were people who wore masks in and then took them off to sing. And I was
Yeah, I know.
if you're gonna do that, This isn't even a mask or no mask fight, but if you're like gonna wear it sometimes, why would that be the time that you pull it off? Oh, when I'm getting all the saliva out of my mouth and into the air, that's when it's coming off. It seemed like pick a lane, but you know, pick.
I had a hard time singing with the mask on.
Did you?
Yes.
I never minded it. I feel like I'm the only one, but it was funny. What I did have, what was hard for other people, not so much me, was there's a lot of people who can't always hear me when I'm speaking, and part of what helps is reading my lips, and when I was speaking with the mask on.
My mother-in-law reads lips and I have to take off.
Yeah.
I have to talk to her.
Yeah. Anyone else, is there anything you're taking away from here, these first 23 verses?
Well, I think it was a very good study.
I love this book. The first 6 chapters are super entertaining. Chapters 7 through 12 are also entertaining, but they are weird. They're basically like the Book of Revelation, kind of. They're just visions and stuff.
And I studied I think twice, the Book of Revelation.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I love that book, but it's weird.
Well, I
there's
like your take on it,
surreal.
though, David. You
Yeah.
always say it's a book of hope.
It is a book of hope. That's
Yeah.
what it is. That's what it was always meant for.
And it's a book for us to look into deeply, because it's a book to follow.
Yeah. Well, and hope in hard times, like there's not been one moment in the past like decade where I've been like, everything's fine in the world. Like everything's okay. And there's always something that can just trigger some crazy anxiety. Everything's starting to wrap up with COVID. Oh, cool. Now Putin's coming into Ukraine and
Now we got them.
as of today, he's
monkeypox.
threatening nukes. There's monkeypox. Like there's always something. And so hope in hard times, I think, is always a really good message.
Yes.
Well, this is a book about this specifically. This is a book about faith in hard times, faith in hard circumstances, faith when there's people who are acting absolutely nuts, keeping the faith regardless. So I'd encourage you in your lives when things seem out of control. Remember that God is present, God is there, and God does answer our prayers. Let's close this time in order. Jesus, we thank you. We thank you for this book. We thank you for reminding us that you don't leave us, even when people in our lives seem crazy, or people, big name officials say things that frighten us. God, we know that you don't leave us in those times. And we thank you, and we praise you, and we pray for everyone here who's just wondering what is ahead for them in life. God, remind us that you're there. Remind us that you're leading us. Remind us that you're helping us. Be with us now, we pray in your name. Amen. Well, thank you all. Thanks for being
No,
here.
thank you, David.
It's fun. I like getting into the Bible.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, obviously. I do though. I've not.
There's a job at shadowing.
Is there? I don't know that I want to do. I might. I've done. Yeah.